Have you ever gone somewhere that made you think to yourself, ah, this place is weird? I love places like that, whether it's in real life or in a video game. So today, with your permission, I would love to take you on a little tour of some unremarkable and odd spaces in Skyrim, also known as the Elder Scrolls. Begin the journey. Okay, hello and welcome to the first place that I want to show you today. Now I need you guys to be really ready today because I can feel it in my bones that I'm going to say a lot of pseudo-intellectual, just straight out my ass, the dumpsters of philosophy. And I know that that's very normal for this series, but today, get ready. Unless you're extremely familiar with Skyrim, you might not know exactly where this is on the map, so let me give you a look here. We are all the way to sort of the northeast portion of the Skyrim zone. So for example, this is Whiterun, you know, where the unemployment is not doing too good. And we are all the way up here in the northeast, kind of near Journeyman's Nook. It's a little bit tough to find these kinds of unremarkable and odd places in Skyrim because Skyrim is, like a lot of more modern games, pretty immersive. It does a really good job of making you feel like you're in the environment that's trying to be represented. So it doesn't feel like you're in, you know, when you play Super Mario 64 and you're in Bomb Bomb Battlefield, it doesn't feel like you're in a grassy, like, park or on an island. It feels like you're in some video gamey thing that has its own sort of immersion to it. But Skyrim does a pretty good job of feeling like you're actually in sort of the snowy environments that it's trying to represent or the natural environments it's trying to represent. However, if you take a little bit of time, you can find little spots in Skyrim that are a little bit outside of the more curated areas. Places that are sort of tucked down away, like for example at the bottom of a bunch of glaciers. Environments that actually you interpret as they actually look rather than like your brain seeing them as something else. It's a little bit like if you ever looked at a painting and you see like, oh, it's a painting of a cabin and trees, and then you look up close and the trees are actually just a bunch of like psh, 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 splotches on, you know, Bob Ross type stuff. There are certain spots in Skyrim that let you sort of see the brush strokes rather than seeing the picture as a whole. And I really, really love finding those little spots. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of the video. It's just when you're playing N64 games, the brush strokes are a little more obvious when you're playing Skyrim. But when it comes to tucked away little spots like this, they're just sort of still and angular enough that my eyes actually see it as what it is. And I get a sort of meta immersion in the space. And this is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning, where I really am just in the right type of mood to say a whole lot of nothing. So if you don't like when people say a whole lot of nothing, you're gonna have to go watch like a Jacob Geller video or something else. There's one walrus down here just chilling, and this walrus killed a couple of wolves. You know, that's what a walruses want to do, especially a walrus with 3 teeth. Hello, sir. Now if we head up these cliffs to where the tops of the glaciers are, oh, Jesus. You're ruining the whole ambiance. You know, the kind of quiet, unremarkable, and odd liminal ambiance. You're killing it. Anyway, when you're up top here and you're sort of on these glaciers, there's enough stuff to look at in the distance and enough environmental effects, things like that. Like, for example, this dragon. The landscape is vast enough that even though it is, like, super bare and desolate and sort of lonely, it feels here like I'm desolate and alone and lonely in a snowy sort of environment, like a desolate Siberia kind of a place. So for the most part, I'm still sort of bought into the implied environment, you know what I'm saying? But I think part of the reason why video games are like, get so deep in your head, especially like single player games that you spend a lot of time with alone, is specifically because of that kind of like weird meta immersion. It makes it feel like a stage play. You know how when you watch a musical, which, you know, far be it for me to ever do that, but if you're ever watching a performance on a stage, on a theater, there are moments when you feel like you're in the space that it's trying to represent, but then there are moments when you like see the stage and see like how it's props and stuff, and both of those moments are immersive, just in different ways, and that's part of what makes theaters so which would make people like theater so much. So all that is really going to set the tone for the places I'm going to show you in the rest of the video today. Now that it started snowing, again, the vibe has gotten a little bit ruined, kind of like when the dragon comes. So we're just going to go on to the next location I want to show you, which is a personal favorite. This place might be kind of threading the needle between that proper immersion and kind of that meta immersion that I talked about, right? This is the outdoor table, that outdoor dining table at Dragon's Reach in Whiterun. A couple of fun details about this little area. 3 plates, 4 chairs. Interesting. The table is extremely crooked on the underlying rug, which is also interesting, because not only would you expect some sort of symmetry in video games, you know, because they're all like computers and stuff, but also if you buy into the idea that this is like a rich, you know, this is the king, this is sort of the king's dining area, or one of them, you would expect that they would, you know, that he would like whip somebody if they had the table be out of whack. But I don't know, I'm just saying that's what I would do if I was king. I would have a dedicated table aligner, and if they didn't do the job, sorry, buddy. This whole space represents another thing that Skyrim has a few of. Skyrim doesn't have any cutscenes, right? Everything sort of happens, at least not that I can recall. If it has any, they're very few and far between. But most things happen while you're present in the world. There's not a lot of cutaway movies. But there are places in video games that feel like they were made for cutscenes and nothing else. And this always felt like one of those to me, because there's really not anything else to do up here. It's just like a place that is a place. It's just a big giant set for something to happen in later, which I suppose is what life is. Now in the daytime, I'll be damned, there's some people coming up here to do some stuff. Isn't that interesting? Though funnily enough, they brought their drinks with them. They're not using what's at the table. He just like brought some bread in his pocket and then sat down and started eating. But that's fine. So that's a nice illustration of kind of what I was saying, right? Places just exist, and then things happen in them, and then the things that are happening go happen other places. And it goes back to just being a place. But in this case, it's not just a place because it's a digital place that's meant to be like a place. So you get, like I said, you get that cool like immersive duality. Somebody start, if you're watching this, start this video over, and every time I say something like that it doesn't mean anything, write it down, like immersive duality and meta immersion. Just post them in a big list in a comment so that I can like look at them and indulge in a little bit of therapeutic self-hate, if you don't mind. So anyway, that's this place. Again, a real personal favorite of mine, especially at night. Would you like to see another place that I like to stop and take in for a minute? I'll show you right now. Who doesn't love standing in a big field? You know, it doesn't have exactly the same barren oddness that, for example, Twilight Princess does in Hyrule Field. But I always did feel like the sort of the western little plains area west of Whiterun, which is right there, was always kind of a weird, like, underutilized little space, because by the time you're at the part in the game that you would start doing sort of side quests, there's just way more interesting stuff to be doing than wandering around clearing out little caves in the western fields here. There's not a lot of people, there's not a lot of stuff going on. It's just a big, pretty, empty field, which is what big, empty fields are in real life, anyhow. So this really gets to the heart of why the series is called Unremarkable and Odd. Because there isn't anything remarkable about it, but it's here. And sometimes it's fun to stop at places like that. God, this game is so pretty. Now there's another part of this big field that always struck me as even weirder, and that is the part immediately behind Whiterun. So this is the backside, where there really is not too much. I love how when you're far enough away, you get the low object density. Is that what that stands for? LOD? Low object? It doesn't matter. But look at how the waterfalls are represented from far away, you know, to save the data. Being down and around here always did just feel, it felt sort of incidental, you know. That was, I think the only reason I ever went to that little hut over there, or that little whatever it is, was to survey the people for their employment status in our Whiterun unemployment video. You know, someone just messaged me on Patreon and was talking about how, you know, when you're a kid, you've got like 3 or 4 games at most that your parents let you play, and you sort of dig in and explore every square inch of those games. Like for me, it was exploring every square inch of, like, you know, Mario Kart 64. Like these are these tiny little low detail tracks. But taking a moment to just like stop and look at a bunch of stuff and dig around in all these little places in something as vast as Skyrim is really kind of a mind-boggling exercise. And Skyrim's, what is it, 12 years old now. Absolutely remarkable game. but this is an absolutely unremarkable spot in that game, you know? Which is the whole point. So let's take a look at another place, shall we? We're just going to keep this train going until I get bored. The last place that I would like to show you is a place, you know, that I come to for a little solitude. We are underneath the giant rock bridge city of Solitudes, down up against the banks of this giant mighty river that a bunch of boats go on, but they never actually go anywhere because Skyrim doesn't have moving boats. It's a calm little place with absolutely nothing going on that gives me some of the same feelings as the very first place we looked at today. I think in Skyrim what's fun is getting really down and close to sea level, because oftentimes things in Skyrim are sort of high up and busy and complicated. So just like in real life, coming all the way down to where the water line is, feeling like everything that matters is above you is a fun, cool feeling. This whole shoreline kind of has some of that same feeling because you are getting up to where the edge of the world map is. You know, a lot of those glaciers out there start to become unreachable and they just stretch off into infinity, into the north, you know, North Pole's up there. Santa Claus. So it's another case of things just kind of trailing off, like all the giant loud reverberations of all the quests and things just sort of trickle and disappear into the end like somebody shouting into a giant tunnel. You know, there are little vestiges of activity like these, oh my god, like these walrusi, but they are mostly sort of faint echoes of how like complicated and enjoyable the rest of the game can be once you get this far out. I have a particular fondness for these little lantern posts that light the way on this path underneath Solitude. I've always found street lights and sort of hanging lanterns and things like that, though it is very funny that it's just like candles in there, which surely can't be practical. But I like standing next to little street lights and things. And believe it or not, it actually does create just a little bit of light. You can see it on the ground right there. It's probably more noticeable at night. Maybe we should find out. Look at that, so it does. There's also a lot of light coming from... Where's all this blue light coming from? I'm a little confused. Alright, I'm not 100% sure how all that makes sense, but that's fine. It's still a very nice street light. And this is still a very nice, calm little place that you can go in Skyrim. Tell me in the comments now, have you ever stood here? Have you ever come here? Did you ever bother? And if so, good for you. Because places like this are part of what make games like this so special and unique and deeply affecting. You know, it can't just all be quests, you know? There has to be little spaces that aren't for any reason. Because if you didn't have those, what kind of adventure would it even be? It would be no adventure at all. Perhaps it's in these types of games where we go to so many places that these quiet moments mean the most. So if you have quiet little spaces of peace and solitude in Skyrim, post them in the comments down below, would you? You know what else you can post in the comments down below? You can say, hey, I liked this video. Please make more videos like it. That will tell me that I'm making the kinds of videos that you want to see, and that's what I want to do because I'm here to serve you. If you want to be here to serve me and help make more of these types of videos a reality, you can go to you can go to patreon.com/any_Austin. Aside from that, I've only got one more thing to say to you. In my free time, I make a lot of music. I use that music in all my videos. And guess what? Today I've got a song for you, and I hope you enjoy it. Please do. I'll see you next time.